It's Friday night. Your phone's been quiet for hours. You could go out. You probably should go out. But instead, you're lying on your bed, staring at the ceiling, doing absolutely nothing. And here's the thing. It doesn't even feel bad. It feels right. It feels like exactly what you needed. But then it starts. That voice. Am I being lazy? Everyone else is out right now. Is something wrong with me? I should be doing something. I should be grinding. I should be social. Why don't I want to be around people tonight? You're not broken, man. You're not antisocial. You're not falling behind. Most guys have felt exactly this pull toward stillness, toward their own space. And nobody ever explains what's actually happening in your brain when it does. Because here's the counterintuitive truth nobody's saying out loud. Choosing to stay home isn't always avoidance. Sometimes it's intelligence. Sometimes it's your nervous system doing something that the most psychologically grounded men in the world do deliberately. And once you understand the actual psychology behind it, you'll stop second-guessing yourself every time it happens and start using it. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why your brain craves solitude, when it's healthy, when it isn't, and what staying home intentionally does to your presence, your energy, and yes, even your attractiveness. Let's get into it. Before we get into the points, we need to address the real problem. And the real problem isn't that you stay home. The real problem is the story you've been handed about what it means. Most guys believe that productivity is performance. That if you're not visibly grinding, if you're not out, if you're not being seen doing something, you're falling short. Society sold you that story. Social media reinforces it every single day. Every hustle post, every "I was up at 4 a.m. caption, it all quietly hammers in the idea that rest is failure dressed up as relaxation. But here's the real truth. The most regulated, magnetic, grounded men you've ever met are not the ones running on empty. They're the ones who know how to fill back up. They know when to go out and when to pull inward. And that self-awareness, that ability to read your own energy, is not laziness. It's emotional intelligence operating at a high level. Here's where it gets interesting. When a man is constantly performing, constantly showing up places because he feels like he should, she senses it. She feels the desperation underneath the effort. Her gut says, he's running from something. But when a man is genuinely comfortable in his own company, that stillness radiates. She feels the difference in the room before he even opens his mouth. That's when she starts wondering about him. That's when attraction quietly begins. Not because of what he did, but because of how settled he feels inside his own skin. This isn't about being a hermit. This is about understanding that your inner world creates your outer presence. Let's get into exactly how. Most guys treat energy like it's unlimited. They say yes to everything, every hangout, every event, every obligation, and then wonder why they feel hollow and irritable for days afterward. They think more social contact equals more aliveness. It doesn't. Not for everyone. Here's the psychological truth behind this. Your autonomic nervous system runs on a finite daily budget of regulatory capacity. Every social interaction, every conversation, every read-the-room moment, every performance of "I'm fine" draws from that account. For introverts, that withdrawal is steep. For ambiverts, it's moderate. For everyone, there's a ceiling. Think of it like this. Your energy isn't a river, it's a reservoir. Rivers flow constantly. Reservoirs fill, then drain, then need time to refill. Going out every night when the reservoir is dry doesn't make you social. It makes you a depleted version of yourself in public. The wrong approach is forcing yourself out because you feel guilty, showing up distracted and flat, checking your phone every 10 minutes, wishing you were home. The right approach is staying home deliberately when the reservoir is low, protecting your energy the way a high performer protects their sleep. When you show up after genuine rest, she feels the fullness in your presence. He was actually here, she'll think. He was actually with me. That quality of attention is magnetic. That's what she remembers. Furthermore, most guys only know who they are in the presence of other people. Their personality shifts based on who's in the room. Their opinions change based on who's listening. They don't even notice it happening. But she does. Her gut says, I can't quite find him. He keeps changing. And that unpredictability doesn't feel exciting to her nervous system. It feels unsafe. Here's the psychological truth. Identity consolidation, the process of actually becoming someone with a stable, grounded sense of self, happens in solitude. Philosophers knew it. Psychologists confirmed it. Time alone with your own thoughts, your own standards, your own values, without the noise of social input, is where the self gets solidified. Meditation, journaling, long walks alone, lying on the floor with no phone. This isn't wasted time.
This is the construction zone where your personality gets reinforced. Not loud confidence. Not performed confidence. Not look at me confidence. But quiet, grounded, I know who I am confidence. That doesn't shift based on the social weather in the room. The guy who never spends time alone is always subtly auditioning. The guy who regularly returns to himself carries a settled energy that doesn't need the room's approval. She feels that immediately. Her brain registers it as, this one knows who he is. And that thought becomes, I want to know him too. Additionally, most guys think being available is attractive. They respond immediately. They're always around. They never have plans they won't cancel. And then they wonder why she treats them like a given instead of a priority. Here's the psychological truth, and this one is rooted in behavioral economics, not dating tactics. The human brain assigns higher value to things that are rare, not because people are manipulative, but because scarcity is an evolutionary signal. Rare things were historically more valuable. Her attraction system works the same way. A man who is genuinely, naturally not always available, not as a tactic, but because he actually has a life he's invested in, triggers a different response than a man who's always one text away from rescheduling his entire day for her. This isn't a trick. This is just what a grounded man naturally does. He has evenings where he stays in, recharges, works on something that matters to him. Not because he's playing games, because he has a real inner world that takes up real time. The wrong approach is being available every time, responding instantly every time, having no plans she can't interrupt. The right approach is having a genuine life that sometimes means you're home and unavailable because you're doing something that matters to you. When she realizes you have a full life, that time with you is actually a specific thing she has to fit into, her brain registers value. Her gut says, he doesn't revolve around me. and something in her starts to want to be the reason he makes space. Moreover, most guys consume constantly and wonder why they have nothing interesting to say. They scroll for 3 hours, they repeat what they saw on Twitter, they talk about what other people are doing. Their conversations are noise, and she feels like she's talking to a relay station, not a person. Here's the deeper truth. A grounded, present man is interesting because he's genuinely processing the world. He's reading things, thinking things, building things, sitting with ideas. When he talks, there's a texture to it, an original point of view, an unexpected connection, a genuine curiosity. That comes from time alone with your own thoughts. You cannot be interesting to others if you never spend time alone being interesting to yourself. Conversation isn't a performance, it's a dance. And you can only bring something to the dance if you've spent time developing moves outside of it. The guy who's always out, always distracted, always consuming social noise, has nothing original to offer. The guy who spends his Tuesday night reading something weird, thinking deeply about it, forming an actual opinion, that guy walks into a conversation and says something she's never heard before. Her brain lights up. Where did that come from? She's replaying the conversation in her head hours later, not because of what he said, but because of the presence behind it. Crucially, most guys cannot sit still. They reach for their phone within 30 seconds of being alone. They always need noise, stimulation, company. And on the surface, that looks like sociability, but underneath, it's anxiety. It's an inability to be alone with their own thoughts without feeling the urge to escape them. Here's the truth nobody talks about. The ability to be still, to sit with discomfort, to be alone and genuinely okay, that is one of the most underrated forms of emotional strength a man can develop. Because life will give you discomfort. Relationships will give you discomfort. She will pull back sometimes. Things won't go how you planned. The man who panics in those moments, who reaches, who chases, who over-explains, is the man who never learned to sit with discomfort in stillness. The man who stays home sometimes, who sits with his own silence, who doesn't need constant external stimulation to feel okay, that man builds a high threshold for discomfort. And that threshold shows up in how he handles everything. He doesn't spiral when she doesn't text back. He doesn't overthink. He doesn't react from fear. He stays calm. He stays grounded. And she senses that stability like a temperature change in the room. Her energy shifts. Nothing rattles him, she thinks. That's someone I can actually lean on. That's when trust starts building. That's when she starts feeling safe. And safety is the foundation that attraction is built on. Similarly, most guys feel shame around rest. They've been told that real men grind constantly, that downtime means weakness, that slowing down means getting left behind. So even when they're home, they're not actually resting. They're consuming, scrolling, numbing, guilt-tripping themselves. That's not rest. That's just tiredness wearing a different jacket. Here's the psychological distinction. Passive numbing depletes you further. Genuine rest, intentional solitude, stillness, disconnection from stimulation, actually rebuilds your neurological capacity. It's called default mode network activation in neuroscience, and it's when your brain consolidates learning, integrates emotional experience, and restores executive function. The most elite performers in the world, surgeons, athletes, military leaders, treat rest as a performance variable, not a guilty pleasure. Not lazy rest, not avoidant rest, not I can't face the world rest, but deliberate, conscious, I'm rebuilding my capacity rest. That's a completely different thing. And the men who understand that difference perform at a level that men who are constantly running simply can't reach. She senses this too. The man who's always tired, always grinding, always running on empty, has a frantic energy that makes her nervous system tighten. The man who's genuinely restored, whose presence feels full, makes her nervous system exhale. He's calm, her gut says. He's not chasing anything. That's emotional caffeine for her brain. Finally, here's the part nobody talks about. Most guys think magnetism is something you perform. A look, a line, a move. They're trying to build a magnetic exterior on a hollow interior. And she senses the hollow. She can't name it, but something in her gut says, there's nothing behind the window. And she loses interest without being able to explain why. Here's the deepest truth in this entire video. Your energy is the message before your mouth even opens. The richness of your inner world, the depth of your thinking, the stability of your values, the genuine contentment you feel when you're alone, all of that radiates outward in ways you can't fake and she can't ignore. It's in the way you pause before you speak. It's in the fact that you don't need to fill every silence. It's in the calm certainty that lives underneath your words. That depth comes from investing in your inner life. From the evenings you stay home and actually think. From the mornings you sit in silence instead of immediately reaching for your phone. From the time you spend alone becoming someone whose company you genuinely enjoy. When a man has a rich inner world, he walks into a room differently. She feels it before he says a word. Her gut says, something about him is different. She can't stop thinking about it. She starts wondering what's behind that calm. And wondering is the beginning of everything. That's the shift that turns a passing glance into something she can't shake. Look, this isn't about memorizing a list of reasons it's okay to stay home. That's not the point. The point is far bigger than that. The point is that the man you're becoming, the grounded, self-aware, genuinely restored version of you, is built in the quiet moments. In the evenings you choose yourself over performance. In the stillness you learn to sit with instead of running from. In the investment you make in your own inner world, your own thinking, your own presence. When you internalize this, you stop performing and start being. You stop going out because you feel like you should and start going out because you actually want to. And that energy difference is something people feel instantly. You stop feeling guilty for resting and start treating your energy like the finite, valuable resource it actually is. And somewhere along the way, without trying to, you become the kind of man who other people can feel when he walks in. Calm, full, unhurried, real. These habits aren't about impressing women. They're about finally feeling settled inside your own skin. And when you feel that, truly feel it, the right people notice without you doing a single thing to make them. Stop performing presence. Build it in the silence.